Oh, yeah, we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you, wherever you are in Facebook, YouTube, Streamland, everywhere across the globe. My name is Michael John of Michael John Paranormal Ghost Stories, and I'm your co-ghost host along with the man of the hour, man of the power, too sweet to be sour. Yes, he is High Spirits Paranormals. Oh, Dale Quigley, we are the voice for the paranormal. We are Windsor, Ontario's own, the paranormal voice. And I want to say thank you so much to everybody tuning in right here, right now, live at 8:01 p.m. Eastern Time from our host spot, Windsor, Ontario, right across from Detroit, Michigan. Of course, get the plug in for good old Detroit. Tonight is a special night, of course. Like every night, we are fortunate enough to have an amazing guest. I can't wait to get our teeth cut talking to this gentleman. But first, we do have some new members, new TPV Nation members. I want to address them. Normally we do a roll call of champions separate, but we're going to do it here, right now, live on the show. So let's go. We're going to do it quick and sweet here, starting with Sandy Jean. We got Taryn Kerper, Tiffany Minich, Brandy Butcher, Stephen Michael, Sarah Pauly, Gwen Reno, Ronnie Heelan, and Sandy Ross, all new members of the TPV Nation. Welcome to the Paranormal Voice, Windsor, Ontario's own, of course, the voice for and the voice of the paranormal. Welcome. Thank you for the support. Thank you for being here, all the day oneers to the day nowers. If it's not for you, we couldn't do what we do. That is for sure. And now, without further ado, we're going to bring in a gentleman who...
Whoa, wait a minute, boy. Whoa, hey, I'm excited to talk to our guest tonight, too. But we've already, I just want to say thank you to the people that are already tuning in. I mean, besides the Roll Call of Champions, I finally got to be a part of the Roll Call of Champions. Yes, I was super excited for that. Thank you very much, MJ, for keeping me into the loop, because I've always wanted to be a part. I love this part of the show. But I just want to say thank you to Stephanie O'Reilly, Chris Valentino, and our good buddy Frank Roberts, or Frank Roberts. Absolutely. Glad you guys are all here. And also Brandy Butcher just came in too. Before we bring out our guests, for our people who watch the show, we want to say thank you so much once again. It's always been, but just a few episodes ago, we had the Mystical Music Mavens.
I hope I said that right. Sorry, Triple M. There you go.
Triple M Paranormal.
Lovely ladies and gentlemen.
So this past weekend, I had the very distinct pleasure of going down to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and hanging out with some of our parapeeps at the Potographs 4 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, with our good friend Tim Malley.
Tim Malley, yes.
Yeah. So anyways, what's that? Absolutely.
T-shirt you're wearing, right?
Brandon. Yes, that's our support the cause. Yeah, no, buddy. But yeah, so anyways, so Ashley and Sharon from MM Paranormal were down there. Yep. And if you watch the episode, they were talking about this book release that they were doing. Mm-hmm. Well, look what I got in my hands, folks. That's right. I got one of their books in my hands. It is, oh, there we go. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Jeez, I gotta learn how to focus on this stuff. There we go. Anyways, we don't need to see my face. We'll just, so I want to thank Ashley and Sharon for bringing these down to Potographs. And if anybody's interested, so what it is, so yeah, let me explain what this is real quick. So from the beginner of a paranormal investigator or the most experienced paranormal investigator. This is a logbook, so you can go in, you can do up to 10 investigations in this book, write down all the details, the equipment, the location, everything you've done at your investigation. Like I said, it is an amazing book, folks. There is a link in the description below if you would like to go and purchase and help this amazing group out. And like I said, thank you to them once again for hooking us up with a book. But with that, without further ado, let's do it, Michael. Let's jump right in there. Who do we got? Please tell me who are we getting a distinct pleasure talking
What
to
do we have
today?
tonight, Bob? No, we have an author. He's a historian, conference event speaker. This guy, he's worn so many hats. He also lives in a haunted 1800s house. Oh my God, we were talking with him backstage, and just the few minutes we had just to chat with him, about a couple things. I'm so stoked for this. I mean, he's got a website. It's called imetaghost.com. He's written books. I met a ghost at Gettysburg. I met more ghosts at Gettysburg. So there's two different books. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, for those that don't know, where some very serious, crazy fighting action went on back in the day. The Confederates, as well as the Union armies, they went at her like you couldn't believe. It is a hot spot to go to for anybody that's into the paranormal, anybody that's a ghost hunter. I think it's been on every show and then some. This hot spot, Gettysburg. Anyways, without further ado, we're going to bring this gentleman in now. Of course, his name is the one and only Don Allison. Don, welcome to the Paranormal Voice. It's great to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been excited for this. We met you at the Old Mill Paracon or Parafest, sorry, back in November. So yeah, I mean, we talked to you. We like your story is absolutely fascinating to us because I love history. History is my favorite topic, and when you wrote books about Gettysburg, I'm like, yeah, this is a guy we need to talk to for sure. So thank you once again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us here at the TPV Nation. So Frank, let's just get ready. Or sorry, Frank. Oh boy, I got Frank on the brain.
Frank Robert, getting the push.
So Don, so let's start. What got you into the paranormal to begin with?
I used to be, a total skeptic. I was newspaper editor, journalist. No, I always thought it was something like overactive imaginations, nothing to it. Till my wife and I bought a very derelict 1835 house here in Northwest Ohio. And we started having things that had me questioning my sanity for a while. You would hear people walk in the front door. You would hear the door open. You would hear footsteps. We'd hear disembodied voices, a lot of strange electrical phenomena, you name it. And finally, I thought, okay, one that really got me fairly early on, my wife and I were out here working. We didn't have any electricity to the building. The wiring was so bad. We didn't turn it on until we rewired. So as it was getting dark, we left to go home. My wife left her purse inside the front door. So I walk in to get her purse for her. As I'm picking up the purse from the main staircase, a young woman's voice whispered in my ear, "Be sure the door's locked." And I thought, you have to be effing me. I could not believe it. And other things. We'd be working upstairs. We'd hear somebody come in and walk across the living room into the dining room. We'd just think, oh, someone from the family stopped by, our friend. We look outside, no cars in the driveway. We're out in the country, and nobody was there.
Wow.
That's amazing. So, real quick, Frank Robert, get a lot of airtime tonight, Frank. Oh my goodness. Frank says hello, Don, and Tim Shaw. We were talking about Tim backstage. Tim Shaw also says hello. So thank you.
Oh, hi, Tim.
We have a Facebook user saying hello, everyone. Let us know who you are. Say your name. Type your name down for us so we can say your name. So, Don, I want to ask. I mean, with all that going on in your house, that's incredible. Disembodied voices, footsteps, on and on. I mean, that's for me, that's a dream. I would, I mean, I have a little bit of action here. Doesn't happen every day by any means, but I get a little bit. I mean, but that sounds like some really compelling evidence and situations. So the creepiest, freakiest, weirdest, scariest happening at your house that you can share with us and our viewers, please.
Well, the one that actually frightened me, and I didn't think it was paranormal. My dad had helped me tear out the old ductwork from the old furnace in preparation for getting a new furnace installed. And I got here, it was a beautiful sunshiny morning. I walk into the living room and I could hear somebody down in the basement. It sounded like they had a sledgehammer beating the old metal that we had just removed. I thought someone had broken in. I grabbed a crowbar and dashed down the stairs. I hit the bottom of the stairs and the noise stopped instantly. And I go in that room of the basement where the noise is coming from. Nothing. No dust. It couldn't have been an animal. I'd have heard it escape. It really blew my mind. More recently, I found it interesting. It was startling, but I fell asleep watching TV in the living room, woke up, and I know it was 2:08 a.m. because I looked at the clock afterwards, but I opened my eyes and there was a young woman in Victorian dress bending over looking at me. And I know I wasn't dreaming because it startled me. I sat up in the recliner. She straightened up, smiled, real as could be, curly brown, long hair, white apron, and she smiled, turned around, started walking away, and then vanished. And I was wide awake as could be. Like I say, it was 2:08. I looked at the clock at that point.
Right.
Wow.
So was your heart in your throat or what? Was your heart in your throat at that point?
When I first saw the woman, yes, because who's this person? And it took me a second or two to come to my senses. And then once I realized that she was an apparition, then it was like fascinating. I wasn't frightened at all, but I was startled to begin with. Yes.
Oh God, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what I would do if I woke up in there was an apparition staring at me. I think right there I'd be like, no, I'll just go back to sleep now and pray to God that they're not there when I wake up again. So no, that's all very interesting and that's fascinating. Okay. So what do you know the history of your house? Like, you know the year it was, but do you know like what it like transitioned, like what originally was to what it is now, or has it always just been a house?
Well, it's always been a home. It's very interesting history. The family that built it, 4 Civil War soldiers grew up in the house. 2 of them did not return home. The mother and father both died of fever in 1863.
Wow.
Also, one of the wives of one of the soldiers who was away at war died also in that time period. After the war in 1869, the surviving sons sold the house to another family. Before that, the original builder was a War of 1812 veteran. He founded a small town nearby. He was a judge, one of the first 3 circuit judges. It was kind of a mansion of its day.
Oh, wow.
First, it was a Great Black Swamp, and he was really the first person to live in this, this area, founded the town. So, and it was an underground railroad stop for a time.
Wow.
And the family we bought it from then had purchased it in 1869.
So
absolutely fascinating.
Well, I see here on the side here. Okay, so our friend Dale and I, we've known each other since 5th grade. It's been a long time. We have a young lady here in the comments. It's Stacy Bellamy. We've probably known her just as long as Dale and I have known each other from grade school and onwards. She's saying she has several stories to share. She says she was once in our storage room, and I was struggling to get the leaf for our table because we had several people over for dinner. Suddenly, I heard, "Do you need a hand with that?" And I spun around, and no one was there. Frank Robert, love all this history, as do I. So now, Don, I know you've been a journalist. You had a career as a journalist, more than 4 decades. Majority of that you spent with the Bryan Times newspaper. That's in Northwest Ohio, pardon me. You did stories, Jesus, murders, politicians' wrongdoings, feature topics, all that good stuff. And that's how you got, I think that's what got you started with your books. I met a ghost at Gettysburg, and then I met more ghosts at Gettysburg. And of course, that has to do with who is it here? Hold on, let me think. I got to remember because I know. What the heck are they called? General Lee was one, and he was the general of the Confederate Army. And then we had General George Meade. He was in charge of the Union Army of the Potomac. Yes, I was actually doing some research today, so I'm trying to remember what I looked at. So, anyways, I mean, your stories are based around all of this crazy, and this is a vicious war, no matter what. 3 days, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. About 50,000 men were killed, wounded, or captured at Gettysburg. Just an amazing casualty rate. Absolutely amazing. And less than 200,000 men, maybe 175,000 men involved in the battle, 50,000 casualties. Just stunning.
And back then, when they had wars, I mean, it wasn't like, you're 2,000 feet away in bunkers. I mean, these guys got head to head, literally, with bayonets. And it was just, like I say, it was vicious. I can't imagine. And it makes sense. I mean, the deaths would have been unfathomable to even to see that, to visualize it, to be part of it, to see that would, before you died, I'm putting myself in the foot of a soldier. I mean, to see your best friend getting decapitated next to you, and then it's your turn. No wonder why I'm getting my hair standing up talking to you right now on this, on my right arm. It makes so much sense that there's so much going on that battlefield because there was so much that happened.
Yeah, just one thing in particular, the weapons, they were, muzzle loading muskets, but 58 caliber, 69 caliber, heavy, soft lead balls, and they did horrific damage. They spread out, destroying bone, just horrible wounds that those bullets created.
Now, I don't remember if this is Gettysburg, but wasn't Gettysburg said to be one of the bloodiest wars ever? Was that Gettysburg, or am I thinking of another battle?
No, Gettysburg was the worst battle. There were some nasty battles in the American Civil War. Shiloh, they had 23,000 casualties in one day. Antietam had, I believe, 30,000 also. Jeez. Mainly in one day. So,
no, that's I mean, back then, yeah. I mean, we think of the wars that we can remember. Well, not actually be a part of, but like World War I, stuff like that. I think these Civil War battles were way more violent than what we can remember as like world wars. Like, yeah, it devastated a lot of homes and people in lives, but I think civil wars, when you look back at through the history and see just how much more devastating they were, and they didn't have tanks, and so it was all done through knives and guns or cannons type of deal. Just want to say a quick note. We got our Anthony saying hello, Paranormal Brothers. Anthony, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So yeah. So tell us, what was your first experience at Gettysburg?
Yeah, here we go.
Well, I had been there just for the history. Actually, my wife and I honeymooned there many, many years ago.
Oh my God.
That was her idea, by the way. So I married well.
Very well.
And really,
yeah, you did.
And it was only after my experiences at the house that I started looking into the paranormal while at Gettysburg. I would go there frequently to promote books that had nothing to do with the paranormal. I had a lot of books outside of that field, but yeah, once I started realizing what's going on, and it was really an experience at Gettysburg that led me to write a book, because I was dead set. I was not going to write a book on the paranormal. I thought people thought I'd lost my blooming mind if, as a journalist, I start writing about ghosts and spirits and disembodied things. But my coworkers at the paper were fascinated. I'd share stories. My wife just about dislocated my arm twisting it, telling me, you have to write about this. I took my grandson to Gettysburg on a spring break. He was like 14 at the time in junior high. We went there for the history, but as a journalist, I had registered, and there were some things we got to do behind the scenes. One was a paranormal investigation. And I just, excuse me, grab a drink here. I just wanted to entertain him, and he thought that sounded cool. So we went, and I expected nothing. I thought this was a touristy thing, but we had the real equipment. We had a couple of ghost boxes, some EMF meters, a laser grid. I regret now that I had the chance to audio record it, but I didn't want to bother with that. I didn't expect anything. And this was to be 2 hours. And basically the first hour and 55 minutes were almost a total waste. Yawn. My grandson and the investigator saw shadow figures. I didn't see it. I thought, okay. We got a little blip on a ghost box. The investigator asked, can you tell us what color coat one of you was wearing? And it said blue, and I had a blue coat. But okay, kind of underwhelming. But this was at Sachs Bridge. And I was actually disappointed with that location until I found out the history the investigator shared. This was one vast open air field hospital, and the buildings nearby are also field hospitals. The very worst wounded of the Confederate casualties and Union prisoners were brought there, and the ones that couldn't travel were left there. After the battle was over, there was a heavy rain. The river there flooded. It actually drowned some of the prisoners who were in open air hospitals near the river. Just horrific. But anyway, and there were a lot of people there when we got there. But after things settled in, all of a sudden, everybody had left, and just the three of us were there ourselves. We started getting hits on the ghost box. The investigator says, anyone here? And we got a yes. I said, well, how many? 7, 8, 9. So I'm perking up. I'm thinking, okay. And my thought went to, how are they hoaxing me? They're trying to get this journalist to give their group a good write-up. How did they rig this,
Right.
you know? But we got, further answers. What year is it? 1863. I asked the investigator, it was getting cold. It was an early spring day. So she went to start the car because the investigation was really over at that point. But my grandson and I are sitting there, and I thought, okay, if it's really somebody from 1863, what would a soldier be interested in? So I said, do you like jokes? Of course. So, do you like music? Well, yes. And my grandson, bless his heart, said, can you play for us? And we started getting music over the ghost box, acoustic guitar music.
Wow.
Nice.
And later, a mandolin kicked in. The investigator came back, and her jaw just about bounced off the floor of that covered bridge. This was amazing. This went on and I know it wasn't radio stations coming through because this was many measures that would kind of fade in and out. It sounded period. I couldn't identify the tune, but after about 10 minutes, it faded out. And I said, wow, you're good. The voices, thank you. Can you play some more? Yes, sir. And this time harmonica kicked in. We got maybe another 10 minutes of music. And then this was just amazing. And the investigator was like, just saying, wow, I've never had anything like this before. And then, we had a voice coming through, a male voice. And, with the ghost box, sometimes you can't understand, other times you can. Right. But some of this was pretty strong. And, we asked, well, what's your name? And it was like struggling, like you'd hear a ah in the middle, like a something and then a hard like GS at the end. And the investigator kept saying, we can't understand you. This voice wanted us to know the name because it repeated it time and again, but we couldn't quite make it out. But then, I asked, like, how old are you? What unit are you in? I shouldn't have asked two questions so quickly. We got a 20. And then I don't know if I meant age or unit, but then the voice said, Captain, unsolicited. I said, well, what state are you from? And I couldn't quite understand it. So I started rattling off states that had troops there. When I said Ohio, said yes. And I said, oh, my grandson and I are from Ohio. And he and I each had an EMF meter that had not budged all night. They both went to the top of the scale and stayed there for a couple of seconds. The investigators didn't move, and she's sitting right beside us. Just some pretty amazing stuff. But anyway, we talked more, and what really got me then is near the end, the investigator said, were you hurt? And we got this blood-curdling male scream, deep male scream of anguish. Still sends chills down my back to think of that. And then a woman crying. And that kind of took the wind out of her sails. Some other people came onto the other end of the bridge at that point. So we left. Now, on the way back to town, I peppered this poor young woman with questions, trying to figure out, as I'm figuring, I got hoaxed somehow. I don't know how they did it, but I got hoaxed. But, she said she'd never had an experience like that. She was in awe, actually. So when I got home, well, first my grandson and I got back to our hotel. We wrote down our memories, what we recalled, because I wanted this documented. I wished I'd recorded it, but at least we got it documented that night. And when I got home, I thought, okay, I'm going to research this. How did they hoax me? Found out how the ghost box works, just scanning stations. You can't broadcast to it. Okay. And, people that I ran it by in the field said, yeah, that's how it works. You'll get nothing. You'll get nothing. You'll get a lot. You'll get nothing. But I thought, okay, were there any Ohio captains who died or were mortally wounded at the Battle of Gettysburg? Searched, and there were 7. I checked the names. One of them, I remember I talked about the RG. One of them was Malin Briggs. He was badly wounded day 1, captured by the Confederates. Very likely was taken to Sachs Bridge, and he died the second day of the battle of his wounds.
Wow.
That just kind of floored me.
Flooring me. Oh
that's where the book title came from.
I met a ghost at Gettysburg.
And actually, his picture, I found his picture in research. His picture is actually on the cover of the book.
Oh, wow. That's cool knowledge. We have Gail Willis joining us. Thank you, Gail, for watching the show.
Thanks.
She's so yeah, no, I mean it's such fascinating like your first experience there, and you've got such amazing interaction with the energies or the spirits of Gettysburg, like right off the bat. I mean, so that just tells you just how active this place is. You yourself going in there, being a skeptic and getting all this amazing evidence right off the bat. So, wow, I can only imagine what was would you describe that as your best experience there, or is there something that went beyond that?
It's as good a ghost box, spirit box experiences I've had. We have some friends actually from Detroit originally who bought the old Sanders farm outside of Gettysburg. And that place that was a Confederate field hospital and cavalry camp, that place is amazing. There's actually an entity in their basement. And through their research, they've concluded he most likely was a black camp servant, maybe 10, 12 years old. He passes himself off as a soldier, but he developed a liking to me. Now, the first time I dealt with him on the spirit box, I was asking, is anyone here? I got a yes. Were you a soldier? Yes. Were you Union or Confederate? Rebel? What unit were you in? 34th Virginia. Very clear. And I said, thinking, well, with that high a number, it had to be an infantry unit. So I said, oh, infantry. And he was, you could tell this spirit was angry. No, cavalry. And wouldn't talk to me that night. But I've investigated there many, many times. They're good friends of ours. And now, anytime I go there, his name's Jackson. It's the only name he'll give is Jackson. And he will actually ask for me during investigations when I'm not there. Where's Don? One time I came in, there was an investigation going on. They were trying to get Jackson. He wouldn't come through. As soon as I walked down the stairs into the basement, Jackson said, "Hi, Don." And he conversed, and I had to leave early. And he said, "Goodbye, Don," when I left.
That's incredible.
That's a pretty amazing thing. But the absolutely mind-blowing incident happened. It was an evening in September, and a good friend of my wife and I, Kat Gash, is a very talented medium, very, very talented. And I didn't tell her anything other than I'd like to go to the Little Round Top area and see what you get. What can you tell me? So we stopped at the Alabama Monument. Now I'm going to backtrack a little bit, the backstory. Okay. I've always been fascinated with Little Round Top at Gettysburg, but always from the 20th Maine Regiment, they made this amazing stand. They were vastly outnumbered. They held the end of the Union line. They held on by the skin of their teeth. The movie Gettysburg focuses heavily on that. Okay. But always the 20th Maine. But because of things happening, whenever I was there with my wife or my grandson, I kept having paranormal experiences at Little Round Top. Looked into things, and I found out I had several family members in the Alabama Brigade that fought there, including 2 members of the 15th Alabama, which was the primary regiment that attacked the 20th Maine. My great-great-grandfather was there and was captured, later escaped from Point Lookout, Maryland, POW camp, and a great-great-great-uncle was there and survived the battle. But anyway, that's the Round Top had always fascinated me. So now we'll go back. I'm here with Kat. We stopped at their monument where they formed up for the charge. And as we're talking, it's dusk, and I see 4 apparition soldiers walking up behind Kat, and I was stunned. She spun around and said, "Don't walk up behind me like that." And they stopped and backed up. Now, these soldiers had weapons. She said there was a 5th one I didn't see, but she said that one kept going. But she said she's communicating with them. She said they want us to leave. And I'm just stunned. I'm watching. He says, I'd never, at that point in my life, ever seen anything like that. I was just fascinated. And Kat said they wanted us to leave. I said, are they threatening us? And she said, no, they're concerned for our safety. So we left. We drove around then to Little Round Top proper, and we got out, stopped the car right where my ancestors would have first made their charge against the hill, against the 20th Maine. And we get out and we walk around and just kind of getting the lay of the land, and we noticed a dark figure walking back and forth on the road. This has been reported many times. It's a Union soldier. They call him the Sentry, and he was a dark figure. But pretty soon we started seeing very white, almost translucent, semi-transparent images at a distance. And they started walking toward us. And more and more and more of these kept coming. And they kept coming, and they actually were forming a semicircle, and more were coming. They were in Confederate uniforms. I couldn't make out like individual fingers or details of the face, but I could see the cut of their jackets. I could see the hats they were wearing. And one of them communicated with Cat. She said his name's Sam, and she said he had a connection to me. She said he was very raggedy. I could see Sam. He was very short. One walked about 2 feet from me, and he was well over 6 feet. And I looked and saw him, and I was kind of startled. And I know Kat was seeing this because she said, "Wow, that's a tall Gomer, isn't it?" If I'd have been alone, I'd have thought I was hallucinating. Stunning. It got cold. Kat said later I was shivering, but I was just absolutely amazed. I didn't have any equipment with me whatsoever. It was not, and on the park, there's a lot of rules against investigating. You can't take certain materials onto the park.
Okay.
Finally, Kat got very uncomfortable. She said she wanted to leave. And I said, okay. So we left. But she said I was visibly shivering and it got very cold. I did not want to leave. I was just in awe, total awe. These would have been comrades of my family. And to this day, that's far and away the most amazing paranormal experience I have ever had.
Indeed.
I mean, you can't get any better than that. So yeah, we got a few more people that are chiming in here. Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. Thank you for joining us, lovely ladies. I just met this weekend in Ann Arbor.
All about you, ladies. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, so they got a podcast called Blondes and Booze, and they are from I know the one lady, I believe her name was Brandy. She's from Texas, but it's pretty amazing. Yeah. So yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting them this weekend up there. So thank you for everybody for joining us. Somebody says hello, Dawn. I can't see. It says Facebook user. So one says, as a medium, I don't want prior information. I get information afterwards. You know what? I think a lot of I know for myself, I'm the same way. I love history and all, and going into an investigation. I try to go in with as little information as I possibly can about the area. I'm not a medium, but I do pick up on a lot. And then after the investigation, after going through all my stuff, I like to then try to find out stories and stuff like that and see if I could connect stuff that I found to the place I was at. So yeah, I mean, that's fascinating to have your family connect to you, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, you approach things much like I do. My first time at a location, I like going in blind. I'm not a medium. I've been told I'm a sensitive. I do tend to bring out a lot of activity. I seem to attract. I've been told I'm an old soul, but I do tend to attract activity. I don't know what it is, and then if I go again, then I'm just the opposite. Once I've researched it, once I've been there once, I try to go to the sources, the primary sources, to verify or debunk what I've found. But then going back, I like to then be well equipped, and then I might know the hot spots. No questions to ask.
So your second book, Don, is called "I Met More Ghosts at Gettysburg." What inspired you to not only write one, going from skeptic to believer, number one, but now, dare I say, full-fledged believer, you're all in, aces high kind of thing. You wrote another book. What prompted the second book?
The first book I mentioned, I didn't want to write, but I did, and that opened so many doors for me. It's been incredible. I have 2 other paranormal books in the works, but due to the family situation, I've not been able to complete them. I hope to get back to them soon. But yeah, I just had so many things happen at Gettysburg, and I looked into some of the scientific theories to kind of go with, looked into the history of things that happened, and yeah, I just really could easily do a third and probably even a fourth book in that series as well. One book I'm working on, and this again stems from an instance I had at Gettysburg. and it was on East Cemetery Hill. And it was just by chance. I had a friend with me who was not into the paranormal, but he made the trip with me. But I wanted to see where the brigade that Malin Briggs fought with on the first day, where they ended up in this following part of the battle. This poor brigade was overrun and took horrendous casualties. It was just a bloodbath for them. What was left of them ended up on East Cemetery Hill, and I didn't really know what happened at this spot. So not a spot I'd really been to much. So I'm walking, and I happen to notice, I found where Malin Briggs Regiment, what was left of it was, and I saw a marker, 107th Ohio, going kind of at an angle up the hill. I thought, I'll check this out, scope it out. I got about halfway up the hill, and all of a sudden I was like struck. I couldn't move. In my mind's eye, I saw darkness, could sense screaming, confusion, muzzle flashes, and just my friend thought I'd had a stroke. He asked what was wrong with me. I couldn't even speak. So he came up the hill, and he told me later, he said, I was, worried I was going to have to be at the hospital with you, calling your wife to tell you he'd had a serious problem. But I finally was able to know I'm okay. And he wasn't into the paranormal, but I was upfront with him what had happened. He obviously knew something had happened. And so he was pretty cool with it. But I couldn't wait to get home and research what happened. And that's where the Louisiana Tigers overran the brigade just at dusk as it was getting dark. And I actually saw a sketch by a war artist depicting that very battle with the muzzle flashes. But anyway, the Louisiana Tigers, some of the fiercest fighters of the Confederates, overran that Union line, pushed them back in amongst some cannon. But they held that line, they got reinforcements, and they pushed the Louisianians back. The 107th Ohio was a German regiment. Their leaders detested these German immigrant units. Just their poor commander on the first day, as his regiment was shattered, he was trying to get troops rallied in town and led a band of people from different regiments back, but he wasn't with his regiment. He got separated by some buildings. So his general put him under arrest for cowardice. That's how badly these Germans were treated. So I thought that because of that experience, when I found out, I'm going to write about this. Fast forward about a year, and I took my two friends from Detroit that have the Sanders house and one of their friends to show them this spot. I didn't say a word about what happened. The friend, this woman, started crying uncontrollably when we got to the spot that I'd had my experience. And she said, I don't know what's wrong with me. She was very embarrassed. I says, don't. And then later I explained what happened. But to me, that was just real verification of the experience that I had had.
Absolutely.
So forthcoming will be a book on the 107th Ohio at an earlier battle, Chancellorsville, and at Gettysburg. They had similar experiences in both battles.
Wow. Look forward to that. Just a quick side note that for anybody who's interested in getting Frank's books, I do have in the link in the description below a link to his website where you can purchase his books as well. So, like I said, I mean, I definitely love the history and the experiences. Now it just makes me want to go there even more now to have some of these very similar experiences. But I mean, I know I've heard the stories over the years from everybody, non-believers to believers, and just the atmosphere alone, they say, is pretty amazing to be standing in the middle of a lot of these areas and just feel what's going on around you, which happens like centuries ago, or a century ago, actually. Over.
Now, Frank,
so
with the happenings there, I mean, that anything could happen. Experiences could happen, I'd imagine, with that level of energy, if you will, paranormal energy. Like anything could happen day or night there, I'd imagine, right?
I have heard some incredible stories that people have shared. One involved walking through a part where Confederates made a charge, and it was at night. And the gentleman said all of a sudden there were soldiers around him, walking with him. Now, this was
Wow.
after dark, but
Yeah.
people see phantom lines of troops during the
Yeah.
daylight hours. I have seen a film
Holy cow.
taken um, in one of the really haunted areas. They call it the Triangle Field, where you could see a semi-transparent line of troops. Occasionally, there would be somebody on horseback or a flag, and you could see this line of troops off in the distance. And several people saw it because you could hear people on the tape going, "Oh my God, wow!" So it's
That's
the
amazing.
place is just.
I mean,
And there's a lot of reasons. Of course, there's a lot of death there, but also some of the theories are it's a high water table and also a lot of quartz rock. And
There
the
you go.
theory is the quartz
yeah,
holds
yeah,
the energy just like a quartz watch.
yeah.
So
I know some of the people that I know have been there. They also said like during the day, like in broad daylight, like you can hear like cannons going off.
I have heard that twice in the musketry. Yeah, it's clear as a bell.
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, day or night, I guess it's always an active place because when you think about it, really, like wars were fought during the day, not at night. So why would you not hear all that activity during the day? I mean, at night, yeah, probably a little bit more quieter, less traffic, less people there, but at the same time, like these battles were fought during the day. So I would think if you're really open and kind of listening, like I said, I've heard people tell me like you can hear cannons going off in what sounds like the musket guns going off during the day, like broad daylight. So I think that would be a trip in itself just to hear that stuff clear as day.
Yeah, it really is. The first time I heard that actually was in the middle of the night, and I had my grandson there the same trip we had the experience at Sachs Bridge, and very clearly nearby a cannon fired. And I've done living history. My grandson has done living history, so he knew. He said, "Grandpa, that was a cannon." I said, "Yeah, it was."
Yep, there it is. Mr. Frank Roberts is on site. Said walking through the wheat field, it felt like hands grabbing at my ankles or shins. Wow, I mean that would be pretty interesting. I guess that would be the wounded people on the ground trying to
For help.
possibly
Good
for
call.
help or something like that. Because
They- there were accounts of the wounded doing that very thing. Help me, grabbing a hold
yeah,
of people going
yeah.
by. Yeah.
Wow, that's absolutely fascinating. So, I mean, so the books you're working on, the stuff like that. You also are a speaker. You speak at other events. Where? Tell us where will you? Do you have any upcoming speaking engagements that somebody would be able to find you at?
Just trying to think what my schedule is right now. Again, with the situation I have with my
Yeah.
wife, I don't have anything coming up
Right.
soon. I'll be at the Old Mill Parafest, and know I was on their short list of speakers. I don't think they finalized it yet, but I'll probably be there. I know I'll be doing some work in Gettysburg this coming summer.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I do a lot of signings. I've spoken to different groups there, presentations like to service clubs. One time there was the State Medical Association. They had a meeting there, and I was one of their keynote speakers, which I found very interesting that the medical
Decent.
professionals were
Okay.
interested in the paranormal. They were fascinating to talk to. I heard a lot of interesting stories from them. But yeah, I can't really right now. It's in flux, but later this fall, I'm sure I'll be doing quite a bit of speaking.
That's
Okay.
amazing, and like I said, you are for sure a very, and your stories are fascinating, and I can only believe you've got like 1,000 more to tell us for sure. So, but no, it's I like I said, Gettysburg is one of those things you hear about as a paranormal investigator, or even a history buff. You hear about the Gettysburg, so it's great to have somebody like yourself on here who can really fill us in with the details on what your experiences are, and so absolutely. I mean, this is like a thrill to me to talk to somebody that has these type of experiences.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, we
Yeah,
really appreciate.
if you go, allow several days because there's a lot there. I mean, the park itself is huge, but
Okay.
that's just a small part. The entire town and surrounding area was a battlefield.
Hmm.
So no. I mean, that's the battlefield itself is one area, but yeah, I mean, you hear stories like even like going through towns, people. I remember somebody showing me some pictures one time. I believe it was a library or something like that that's in town. And when they showed me the picture, I could make out this female face that was in the window. They didn't even see it. They were like just showing me pictures, like oh, look at this building. And when people tend to send me pictures of stuff, I usually analyze it and see if I can see anything like and stuff like that, because some people just don't pick it up right away. And when I message them back, it says, "Yeah, do you see the female that's looking at you through the window?" They're like, "What?" And they went back. They got back to me a couple days later. They're like, "I didn't even see that when I was standing there in front of the building." So, I mean, the whole town has got activities, not just the battlefield. It's the whole area that's pretty active with stories and stuff like that for sure.
It really is. You can encounter something at about any time and any place in the Gettysburg area.
So yeah, no, they're. I mean, anybody who's looking for a trip, definitely make your way down to Gettysburg, because it sounds like a place you will not walk away disappointed from. That's for sure.
Yeah, and our good friends from Detroit, their place is so active that they actually host paranormal investigations as part of their income stream. They don't allow people inside their living quarters, but they do allow them in the basement. And they have like 8 acres of woods that is highly active. So
That's
if
insane.
you don't know where to investigate, that's a good place to go. You can either have your run of the woods in the basement, or they'll help conduct the investigation for you. So it's kind of anything from a beginner to experienced paranormal researchers can go there.
And I'm sorry, Don, that's right in Detroit, did you say?
They're from Detroit, but they bought the Sanders farm outside of Gettysburg.
Yeah,
They
okay,
actually
Sanders
call
farm,
their
yes.
business Haunted Trails.
Yeah.
And I've seen apparitions in their woods. One time I was helping him with an investigation. My friend had to go back to the house, and when he started walking away, the ghost box we had, a loud voice says, "Halt." And we saw some movement, and someone turned and took a photo, and a Confederate soldier with a musket was leaning around the tree, captured in the photograph.
Oh, wow.
At that same
That's gold.
time.
That's gold.
Pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, absolutely amazing. For those that are watching the show, if you want to get a hold of Don's books or find out what Don's up to, his website is in the link below. So for sure,
I'm at a
Don,
ghost.com.
I'm at ghost.com. Don, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to join us here today on the Paranormal Voice, Windsor, Ontario's own. Uh, Thank you to everybody who watched from the side, asked some questions, made some pretty interesting comments. We thank you guys for joining us. It's been an absolutely amazing hour. So yeah, Don, thank you once again.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. Pleasure's mine.
No, Don, I've only ever said this one time before, and sitting here with you, listening to you tell stories, you're like the cool uncle everybody wants to sit next to at the campfire, for sure. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, you're a historian. For one thing, you're a journalist for 4 decades. You have so much knowledge to bring to the table on top of your paranormal experiences, your haunted house from the 1800s that you're still living in, that's still active. Which is incredible right there. I mean, there's so much to say about Don Allison. So thank you so much. One more time, his website is imetaghost.com for his books. I Met a Ghost in Gettysburg, and I met more ghosts at Gettysburg as well. We will see you up the road, Don Allison. I'm so glad we finally had a chance to make a connection here with the voice for the paranormal, the voice of the paranormal, Windsor, Ontario's own, the Paranormal Voice. And thank you to everybody of the TPV Nation, the newest members that we announced tonight earlier in the show on the Roll Call of Champions. If it wasn't for you, and it wasn't for great guests like Don Allison, Dale and I could not do what we do while we do it, how we do it, when we do it, right here, right now. Everybody tonight said what they wanted to say, what they needed to say, what they had to say. And Frank Roberts, it feels like Frank Roberts is everywhere I look. There's Frank Roberts. I had to give one more homage. Oh my God. But anyways, Don Allison, heaps of gratitude to you, heaps of gratitude to the TPV Nation. But in the meantime, in between time, what do we say? We say, Dale, 1, 2, 3. We're going to say it together. Happy hauntings.
Happy hauntings.